Howdy, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be ranking and tier listing the Tommy STP by Hardline. Like always, I'll be ranking this STP based on 5 different criteria. The first one's going to be looks and realism. Will I get any weird looks if I use this at a urinal? Next one is going to be comfort and packability. Will it look or feel like I have a boner? Next one is going to be STP function and learning curve. Will I be able to learn how to use this in a reasonable amount of time? Or am I going to get frustrated and toss it in the trash? Next up is pricing. Will I be broke if I buy this STP? Yes or no? And then my final category will be my overall ranking and would I recommend this to people. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that I bought this prosthetic with my own money. No one gave me any money to review this. They didn't send me the prosthetic for free for review. And what works for me may not necessarily work for you, so please keep that in mind. Before we actually get started with the review, I'm going to give you fair warning. What you're about to see is a prosthetic that looks like a penis. If this bothers you in any way, please feel free to click off the video. Thank you for watching as long as you did, and have a good one. Alright, here is the Tommy by Hardline. Give you a little wraparound of it. It's real life casted. Has quite a big cup on it. The size specs on this are from base to tip is going to be 5.7 inches or close to 14.5 centimeters. The shaft length is 5.5 inches or around 14 centimeters. The girth on this is 4.375 inches or 11.11 centimeters. And the weight of this is 217 grams or 7.7 ounces. And yes, my kitchen scale did come in handy for this one again. This weighs about the same amount as a box of Kraft mac and cheese. The cost of this is $130 USD, and there are 13 color options. This one is LS4. For my pricing category, I'm going to put this in worth it tier at $130 USD. This is still on the cheaper end for STPs, but it's a bit more mid-range. When I received the Tommy, it came in an unmarked white box, and inside was the STP in a sealed plastic bag. I love the fact that for shipments, they used a box since it helps protect the STP and hide what it is from carriers, but I'm not a big fan of the fact that it didn't come with a resealable bag, even if it was just plastic over fabric. So my first impressions of Tommy were that it's lighter than I anticipated. I don't know if my screen is just bad at showing me colors, or maybe I'm just bad at determining what color a prosthetic is, but I felt like this was lighter than I expected. I don't think it's a terrible match. I think it's pretty okay. I just wish it was a bit darker than it was. I think if I were ever to get another prosthetic from Hardline, I'd get something like an MS2, which is darker. Looking at the STP, I believe all of their prosthetics are real life casted off of someone, and you could really tell because it's very highly detailed. I always pointed out when you see real life casting ones, you could actually see goosebumps on the skin on the tab, and the balls are very nicely textured. On here, it has a slit that you have to actually open up yourself, which makes it more realistic. On the back, it has the cup. It doesn't have a no-spill lip, but it is quite a large cup for the size of this STP. The silicone's nice and squishy, nice and stretchy, and it compresses pretty well. The balls aren't like enormous, which is great for packing. I do wish that they had a painted option for this, like you could actually order it when you're ordering your STP. I reached out to the company, and it seems that they do somewhat offer that, but when I was asking about pricing and whatnot for it, they never got back to me on it, so I'm not quite sure. I just hate to see really highly detailed prosthetics not have the extra paint on it to really make those details pop, because this is a really good looking STP. So for this tab, something that's interesting about it is on the website, they say that you could cut it off, but the intent behind it is for your waistband to actually hold it in place to help hold it against you. And I haven't personally tried it, but I feel like this is enough surface area, you might be able to adhere it to your body and have it really secure against you. The silicone itself is slightly tacky. It's not oily, it's just tacky, a little sticky. but I would definitely recommend cornstarching it a little bit, and that will definitely help. For looks and realism, I'm going to have to put this in alright. It does have great detailing, again, because it's real life casted, but because this is a cut STP, the lack of paint is a lot more noticeable. If they added just a little bit of coloration to it, I think this would look great, especially with the fact that it has a closed tip most of the time, unless you're opening it up. So when peeing with the Tommy, positioning it is totally fine for me. I felt like I could just place it and it was fine. And even without a no-spill lip, I found that that wasn't a big issue. My main concern with it was the fact that I had to pinch this open to pee. So I have a very strong pee flow, and I felt like no matter how much I would pinch or not pinch, because if you pinch it too much, you're cutting off the stream, but I felt like no matter which way I was pinching it, it wouldn't open up enough for the flow to be able to keep up with my stream. I do know a few people I've talked to who have had the Tommy in the past. They got theirs secondhand. This slit was actually larger for them because either someone cut it or just degraded over time. It happens with use. But they said that it works a lot better when this is more open. So I would like to see an option maybe from Hardline that they could have this be fully open all the time, but just in that slit shape, or if they could cut it a little more from factory, because I feel like if I cut it, I'm gonna ruin it, and obviously they can't reimburse me for something that was my fault. I just would like to see more options for that. For all of the prosthetics I do reviews on, I try not to alter them in any way before I do a review, so you guys know exactly what you're getting from the company. I feel like maybe another thing that's impacting the flow is the walls on this are pretty thick for the size of this STP, so maybe it's not able to hold as much fluid before it can exit out. So here I am doing the 250 milliliter test. You can actually see the stream is pretty good on this. I actually had to have my friend help me out with this because I needed to be able to pinch open the tip. My issue with it is I guess my flow is just too strong for this type of prosthetic, because even with the lower end on the 250 milliliter and now the 400 milliliter, I could tell that the cup was filling up faster than I would want it to if I was actually using it. It also doesn't hold a lot, considering that it only holds 55 milliliters, which isn't very much when compared to your average urination. For the STP ranking and learning curve, I'm unfortunately going to have to put this in I may be stupid. The flow rate on this wasn't the greatest for me, and adding on positioning in STP with controlling my flow and having pinched the tip to let it all out, I just felt like it was too much when you really have to pee. I do think if you practiced a lot, this would probably be no issue to you, but to get to that point might take longer than you're willing to put in. If you had a weaker flow and really wanted an STP that doesn't always have an open hole at the end, then I think this would be a good option for you. I will say I don't think STPs that you have to pinch open to use are that beginner friendly, so I'd probably recommend this also if you have a little more experience with STPs versus this being your first one. So for actually packing with this, the Tommy is actually a really comfortable STP. I feel like it's because it's a super squishy silicone and the fact that it's sized very proportionally for me, where it would make a decent bulge and it didn't feel like it was in the way. It also has like a shorter cup, so it wasn't like constantly between my legs, which was good. I actually went bowling with this just to kind of test it out, and I found that if you're not wearing tighter underwear, the shaft of this does have a tendency to go off to the side, so I definitely make sure you're wearing something tight enough just to hold it in place. I would like to point out that this is the Tommy, but Hardline does have a smaller STP that's functionally the same cup and design called the Ricky, so if this one would be too big for you, you could always look into that one as well. For comfort and packability, I'm going to put this in comfy tier. This is a really comfy STP that just needs a little bit of help to stay in place, and it makes a bit more of a bulge than you might want, but I don't think it's too bad. If you want to pack a bit bigger, then this would be great for you, a good mid-sized bulge. I'd also like to point out that they do have those other cups like I was mentioning. So, what did I think about the Tommy by Hardline? Well, I really like the look and feel of this STP. I think it's really comfortable, it sits really nice in my pants, it makes like a more larger bulge than I normally pack in, but I still think it's really reasonable and comfortable. My issues with it are the fact that they don't offer on the website when you're ordering the custom paint option, because a real life casted STP looks so good when you have the right paint job for it. And with the pricing, if they did offer that, I think they could go up like $50 and it would still be very reasonable. I do wish also that they did have an option for maybe a different keyhole for this. I think the way they do this is they cast it and then cut the slit themselves. So maybe if they gave an option to have it more open from factory, or just have it open in general instead of having to pinch to pee, I would like it a bit better. But I think that it's not a bad STP overall. For my overall ranking, I would have to put this in worth a try. I think this would be good if you're more focused on the look and feel of STPs and maybe don't have a strong flow. Especially if you're not a fan of STPs with an open tip, this would be pretty good. For the price, if you really love the look of this and are willing to put in the time to learn how to use it effectively, then I think this would be a great option for you. So, that was my review of the Tommy STP. I hope you found this video informative, entertaining. I hope it gave you some insight on this prosthetic. If you have any questions about this particular prosthetic or any other ones that I've done reviews on, please let me know. Have a good one. The sound is funny.